welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Heather Forrester, manifestation, business strategist, and intuitive healer dedicated to empowering successful female entrepreneurs. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You are welcome to the show, and you are also a very good podcast host, and that is the Enlightened Misfit. We'll certainly talk about that. Right now, we'll be talking about attracting wealth and business abundance. So, firstly, to understand from you, Heather, is that business strategists normally they suggest about business strategy. Here, you bring intuitive healing into it. Help us understand this gamut of things and how did you get to this whole path of being a business strategist, and then why do you only work with women entrepreneurs, or is it only that because you want to keep that niche?
Um, okay, so I'll start with the fact. I think your first question is kind of asking most business strategists talk about actual strategy, whereas I'm a little bit of what I like to look at it as is like there's a masculine version of strategy and a feminine version of strategy, if that makes sense. So the masculine is all about like taking action and what you're doing to show up and like that's ads and running like marketing strategies, things like that, which I teach these strategies as well, but without having the feminine aspect of like allowing yourself to receive and be patient and be grateful for the journey and trusting the process, then it can be hard to allow your manifestations to come to you. If you're always just kind of showing up in this masculine energy, what I find is people will get burnt out and people will essentially start to resent how they're showing up. And I know for me, one of the main reasons why I choose to work with female entrepreneurs is just because I believe my ideal client is basically just like me. And I'm a mother and a business owner. So, as a mom and as a business owner, I know how hard it can be to have a work-life balance, especially as a entrepreneur. So, that's one of the big things that I help my clients to achieve is not only balancing their work life, but balancing their home life as an entrepreneur, because it can feel really hard to show up as a wife, to show up as a mother, to show up as a business owner all at one time and not having a clear balance between that. And that can make it really hard for women business owners to really make the moves that they want to make and to make the impact that they want to make, because they're either overworking or they're not showing up enough because they're having to take on too much at home. And so finding a nice balance is one of the things that I make sure that my clients are able to master so that they can make the impact they want and serve through their gifts in the way that they want to show up in the world, and also have the home life that they love, like have a very healthy relationship with their romantic partners, have very strong connections to their children, and just feel fulfilled all around. Now, and I think your next question was kind of how did I get here? So to answer that, basically, I have been a coach for this is in my going into my fourth year of this, but I have always had like very spiritual or intuitive gifts, but I didn't recognize them, if that makes sense, because they weren't nurtured whenever I was younger. And I've always been someone who has been a master manifester, but I've never seen that. And what that means, manifestation is not just like wishful thinking or just like, oh, this is mine, and then you have it. It's knowing what you want. It's having clarity on what you want and then taking steps to make it happen. So that's what manifesting is. And I've always been very good at that. So I've always been very clear about, well, what I want, and then I would take the steps to get there. And so that's just something that I've always been really good at. And so that motivation and that showing up and that confidence, those are things that I teach, right? So anyways, what brought me here is I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years. So for the last 7 years, and I'm quite young, but I've learned a lot in these past 7 years. So essentially, the first business that I ran, I was just kind of doing it on society standards and I was just kind of showing up. I didn't really know too much. I was just doing things. I was like, I know what I want and I'm just showing up and I'm just doing things. And then when I actually went through a divorce and I lost my father. So there was a series of traumatic events that kind of woke me up to the fact like, hey, you're learning a lot of things and you're doing these things that are meant to serve you, but you haven't quite learned anything, if that makes sense. It's like these traumatic events really woke me up. My life started to kind of crumble. And so what happened was is I realized I didn't actually like anything that I had created. I was super proud of myself and I enjoyed my clients that I had in my business. But what I was doing was really hard on my body. I was a hairdresser. So I was standing all day. I felt kind of stuck. I felt like I couldn't get out of that situation where either I had to work more to make money and I was just becoming resentful on the weeks that I didn't have clients or the weeks that it was slow or whatever. And it was just this like feast or famine type of deal. And that's with any business, I believe, as an entrepreneur, especially if you're not in alignment with how you're taking action. So that's another reason why I do what I do today is because I've learned that in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, at least for myself and my dream clients, I know my dream clients will resonate with this, right? Because this is what I've had to learn to make it happen for me is if you're not in alignment with how you're serving, what you're doing, what actions you're taking, because guess what? There's a million strategies for getting clients, for building your business, for achieving wealth, whatever it is. There's a million strategies, and no strategy is one size fits all. Like everybody can take those strategies and take what aligns with them. But if you're not connected to yourself internally, if you're not connected to your heart, if you're not connected to your body, your mind, your emotions, your mental state of being, you won't know what is in alignment versus what isn't. And you'll just kind of take everybody's rules. And whenever it's not working, you give up or you step back or you start beating yourself up or there's this pressure or you start to become a workaholic and you start to overwork and then your family life suffers because you're not showing up for your kids, or when you are showing up for your kids you're so frustrated because you're not taking any time for yourself and you're overworking that you blow up on them. And I'm only saying this because this is exactly where I've been, right? I've gone through these phases. I know exactly what it's like to be doing things out of alignment. And so I find that the way for myself and the people that I work with and the people that I attract, the only way they're going to create this abundance or this wealth is if they are in full alignment with themselves, with how they're showing up in work and home, with how they're showing up, with what ways they're serving people, right? Like how they're using their gifts, what their offers are. So it's one thing to know how to create an offer, but it's another thing to be aligned with an offer that you are creating or a product that you're putting out, right? So it's finding alignment. So it's more than just running some ads or creating products and saying, hey, I've got this deal going on. People aren't just going to show up. There's energy behind these things. And if the energy isn't aligned, people can feel it. If people can feel that you're not confident or if you're unsure or if you're desperate, people can feel that and they'll be kind of weary to join in. But if you are passionate and if you are aligned and you know the worth of the work that you're selling, then it's a no-brainer. People can feel that energy and they become extremely attracted to it. That is how the law of attraction works. So in if you are unaligned, if you're not aligned, that's why it's two parts, right? I talk a lot about, yes, I'm not a typical business strategist. That's why I say manifestation business strategist and intuitive healer, because if we are not aligned physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to what we're doing. And maybe this isn't for everyone, right? And I don't speak for everyone necessarily. So that's okay if because there's like I said, there's so many strategies and so many ways of doing things that my way might not be right for you, but it might be because it was for me and it's right for all of my clients, right? Like and what I mean and why I believe my strategies work so well is because it's not my way of doing. The other thing that I'm really passionate about, the things that are really important to me when I'm working with someone is the fact that they are figuring it out, right? I'm not telling them what to do or how to do it. I'm showing them how to drop into their heart, how to align with their mentality, how to align with their emotional states, how to align with their physical being, how to align with their soul and their true self, their authentic self, right? I don't know what that is. I can't tell them how to be authentic. I show them how. I show them how to do it for themselves, right? That's where I come in. I can just guide them into dropping into the self so that everything can come into alignment, because I don't know what's in alignment for you or anybody else. I only know what's in alignment for me, and that's what I've become a master of. And so that's these strategies that I teach. Yes, I can teach you how to run an ad. I can teach you how to build a brand. I can teach you how to, attract clients. I have to do these things for myself too. But knowing that is not going to be good enough if you are not aligned within your body, within your mind, and your soul. So I know it was a
Absolutely.
mouthful.
No, absolutely, absolutely, Heather. Well explained, and I just wanted to get this perspective out of you because you are very much right. I understand it, but ultimately, even if I understand it, it is the master who has to say it because nobody will listen to it. Everybody will listen to the master, and you are the master for today. In terms of entrepreneurship, the biggest one of the biggest challenges is to overcoming our own fears, overcoming our own mind, and even though the idea may be good, it is the mental blocks we create along the way that needs to be cleared out of the way on the path to success. So
Yes,
that you
exactly.
have explained it very, very well. Now, I wanted to understand it. What is it that these entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, they come to you specifically with what type of questions? Second thing is, you encourage them to detach from control and activate their inner divine abilities. A lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, they want to be in control of their life. That is why they have gone into entrepreneurship. They want to be their own boss.
Yeah.
With that sort, and especially if you are very young, it takes time to understand this whole gamut of things. Only time will help you understand. Nobody else can. Even would have been like this, perhaps if I, at my younger age. But how do you tell them to uh, be detached, to lose that control, whereas their whole mindset is more also about because they need to be controlling their business to be able to run it better. How do you assimilate all these aspects of their personality and inject your understanding of this whole manifestation thing so that they can lead to abundance in their business that can again flow into their personal lives?
Yes. So it is a process, right? And what's actually fun about it is it's not it's not letting go of control too much about what you're creating necessarily, but it's the control aspect is sometimes we are not ready for our manifestations to come through, or we're not ready for clients, or we're not ready for whatever it is that we're wanting so badly. So the control that I help them release is that desperation, or that grasping, or that wanting, and to surrender, to step back into trust that they're showing up, so something's going to happen. And it's all just kind of waiting for divine timing. So it's the control is not letting go of being your own business, or being in charge, or creating whatever, because we're all creators, and I firsthand, one of these things is like I love to be kind of in control of my destiny, and I believe we have that right to be in control of our destiny. But what happens is, if we are in control, if we are too like attached to how things go, or it's being attached to the how and the when, right? It's being attached to what's coming in. So it's the control of the how. Because if we're controlling the how too much, or the when, then what we're actually doing is we're not creating the space or the capacity for the universe to drop miracles, or to drop opportunities into our lives. So what that means is we've got to step back from the control of how it's coming, because that's when it can happen very quickly. It can happen instantly. It can happen, and that's not always. Sometimes, like I said, going back to, sometimes things take time. Good things, big things take time, because it just waiting for a place where you're not going to sabotage it, right? There might be things you have to learn in order for you to not show up in a way that you're going to sabotage the relationship or sabotage the business or whatever the thing is. There are things that we have to learn and understand and perspectives that we have to shift in order for us to actually be ready to receive the gifts that we're wanting to receive. So, and another thing is trust, right? So there's one aspect of we've got to get ready to receive. And then the next thing is just trusting, right? So this is coming into trusting that number one, it's coming, being able to receive. And the thing that helps me the most and what I push so hard for my clients is this attitude. It's the attitude of gratitude, right? Looking for why you are content with where you already are, because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you will find everything that you think you want or need, in some aspects you've already got it. So an example of that is wealth, right? In order to attract more wealth, you must feel wealthy. You must put that energy out into the world. But if you are feeling like you are broke or in lack or any of that, then all you're doing is you're putting that energy out and the universe will show you. So, how I look at it is we've got lenses, right? We've got like glasses on. So, if we're looking through the lens of lack, then we will see more lack. We will start to, because life happens. So the car breaks down, or we need this, or we need that. And we start to look at it like, oh, just another thing, just another thing, just another thing. We start adding on to it and we start building this um, belief that we are lacking and that thing that we're struggling. But if we're looking through the lens of wealth, then we start to look at things differently, right? Do we have running water? Do we have electricity? Do we have food to eat? Do we have clothes on our back? Do we have shoes? And you start to think about people who are literally dying because of an illness, or they're in a place where they have nothing, right? So you start to think about how, and but you've got, whether you are homeless or you have nothing. I saw something yesterday, actually. It's funny, and it was on a dumpster, and it said Jesus was homeless, but Jesus was like the happiest person, the most giving person, the most loving person. But the way he saw himself being homeless was the key to that. He had a choice to see, I'm homeless, that means I'm lacking, that means I'm struggling, or I'm homeless, that means I'm a traveler, that means I am finding things, that means I'm meeting new people, right? Like it's the lens that we put things on that help us detach from control. And like I said, if you, I don't know if you can see that shift of perspective, but it's the difference that makes the manifestations just cling to you. They come to you. They are so attracted to you because of the lens you are operating in. So it's about trusting and just finding your way to be genuinely content. Now, the exercise for that is going into the heart, because that is where your emotions lie. And we are always manifesting based on how we are feeling. So if we can get our heart into alignment with how we want our reality to look, then we're on the fast track to getting those manifestations to come to us. So going into the heart and asking questions that will provide the solution is key. Okay. So what that means is you don't want to ask, if you ask questions, you're going to get an answer. So if you ask a question like, well, why am I struggling? Or why am I lacking? You'll start thinking about all of that. And that's what your mind and your heart will become flooded with. But if you start asking questions, why can I be genuinely content with where I'm at right now? Why am I already wealthy? What do I need to love myself more? What do I need to feel more abundant right now? If you start asking those questions, the brain is going to start looking for those reasons, and it's going to start allowing you to step in. So, yes. So, what I meant by you might already have the thing that you're looking for, maybe not fully, right? Maybe not the vision to capacity, but you might already have everything you need to feel what you need to feel to get to that vision in the quickest, most optimal way. And these are the things that so that's the control. The control is stepping back from this hustle or this I have to grind, I have to show up, I have a detailed plan of how I'm going to get there. And there's a fine line, right? Yes, you should know what your goals are and what steps you need to take to get there. But having so whenever I run an ad or whenever I put out an event, I let it go, right? Like I've showed up, I've done the work, I've put it out there, and this is the part where I have to let go. I'm not going to sit here and stress and worry about who's coming to the event, who's going to watch the replay, who's going to sign up for my program. These are the things that we have to let go of, because that once you put it out, now it's your time to receive. You've done the work, you've put it out. It's time for you to sit back, relax, take a day off, receive. And that's where I think my clients, and I know me for a long time, that's one of the harder parts that I have to help my clients master. And it's that level of surrendering, trusting, and letting go that's going to create the space for everything to come to you. I hope that's making sense so far.
Absolutely, absolutely, Heather. My job is to ask difficult questions so that it comes down to, the best from the master, and for the audience. And that is where the learning happens. That,
Yes.
even the students, the pupils have to ask, the difficult the question is, that is for the student, not for the master. The master always answers them to the depth, from the depth of his or her knowledge. And that is where the wheel of learning keeps on moving, like our destinies, like our businesses, like whatever we do in our lives. So there is like that learning part. So there is still so much to learn from you. And talking about your client, you have, with one of your clients, you have your podcast called The Enlightened Misfit. So how can people learn more about you, about what you talk about from this podcast? Tell us what this podcast is all about.
So the podcast is kind of a wide variety of things. Sometimes it's me and my co-host just going back and forth on different topics, whether it's overcoming resistance, limitations, self-sabotage, getting clarity around your goals, stepping into self-acceptance. It's a wide variety, but the main thing that we want to do is kind of marry the feminine and the masculine, or the spirituality with the scientific aspects, right? We love this. We love the fact that it takes both. I don't know if you see this behind me, but I've got the yin and the yang. So something that really, for me, I know that is extremely important in my success, in my fulfillment within my family or in my business, in just all aspects of my life that are important to me, is being okay with the light and the dark aspects, or the feminine and the masculine, and being balanced and aligned between the two. And so these tools and everything that we talk about is all about bringing all of that into alignment so that you can be fully balanced, so that you can feel complete and whole. So it's kind of like the war between the higher self and the lower self, and allowing those two to become at peace with one another. So it's like the higher self is all of your strengths and your good feelings and stuff like that, but your lower self are your weaknesses. And a lot of time, especially in today's society and culture, we are looking down upon the lower self. We're not looking at it as if it has any benefit to us. We're only looking at it as if it is our enemy and hurting us, and therefore we're at war with each other. Therefore we're unable to truly accept ourselves or step into alignment, because sometimes it's within that lower realm of who we are, bringing that to light and giving it the love that it needs, because it's been rejected for so many years by our parents or by our lovers or by our ultimately ourselves, right? And we've decided that these things are bad. But when we start to look at those things through the lens of the higher self, they become one. Because what I have found in my journey is, when we have a higher self and a lower self, instead of us just being merged into one that balances, we're not looking at our lower self from the higher self's perspective. We're looking at our lower self from the ego's perspective, and from what society has projected onto us to tell us what's bad about it. But I don't believe that there is anything inherently bad about our lower self, or anything inherently better necessarily about our higher selves. I believe they are a team, and they make us whole. And so, and again, it's this masculine, feminine, it's the dualities of life. So everything that we teach, that's kind of the main thing that we want to come across in the Enlightened Misfits. And then we also do interviews with other spiritual entrepreneurs who might be in similar realms as us, or because my co-host, she's a human design guide, and then me as a manifestation business strategist, we kind of come together, and then we find other entrepreneurs every once in a while that we bring on as a guest. And they just kind of talk about how they show up or how they channel their gifts and what they do. And it's funny sometimes, even if they're completely different from what we're doing and how we're showing up, the work is very similar. And I love the synchronicities. So that's kind of what the Enlightened Misfits is all about. So the best way to kind of check that out is to just look up the Enlightened Misfits. We're on all the podcast streams, and we're also on YouTube. And then the best way to kind of contact me or be in alignment in my circle is on Facebook. And so that's Facebook/Holistic Healer Heather. So Facebook.com/Holistic Healer Heather. That's my Facebook page. And I have a group, and I stay very intimately connected with my followers and people who come and join me on my Facebook page. That's where I post the most content. And then I also upload a weekly video on my YouTube channel, which is also Holistic Healer Heather, that is separate from the podcast. So I've got those three things kind of going on. But those are the best ways to get more content from me, to be in my circle, and to be up to date, because I host master classes and live events all the time, going into very specific details about what it is my process is beyond the masculine, right? So it's like, yes, we know we have to have the masculine, but there's a big piece that a lot of entrepreneurs, I believe, are missing. Not just female entrepreneurs, but like I said, I believe I'm an expert in, obviously, as a female entrepreneur, trying to juggle a lot of hats as a mother and a lover and an entrepreneur. So being able to, that's kind of what I connect with the most, if that makes sense. There's no, I don't know. I hope that makes sense. It's just kind of like where, for me, that's why I chose the niche that I chose. But anyways, there's a lot of information on my platforms and more classes. And like I said, I'm running these things all the time. So that's the best place to connect with me and to learn more about my space.
Perfect. Wonderful. You have been very, very eloquent. You have been very, very clear. No doubts about that. Heather, don't worry about that. And I'm sure, a lot of people understand it. It is, even if you understand, somebody needs to explain it to them. And even that is why even I was listening to all this very, very intently. And I've also absorbed quite a bit of it, and in that, and you get wiser. The more you listen, you get wiser. And when masters like you
Yeah,
speak, it is better
exactly.
to listen. You have made a great journey for yourself. You have traversed a long path, and you have achieved quite a bit for yourself. And there is so much to achieve for yourself and for all the people that come in your life and try and take their help. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.